I'd like to call this meeting to order. Greetings to everybody. Do we have a full house?
We're missing one.
Missing one. We're pretty darn close.
Pretty good.
All right, so the first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from October 2nd, 2023. Oh, yeah. Do I hear a motion on those? Oh, there's Ann. Okay.
I so move they be approved.
All right, we got a motion. Do I hear a second?
I second.
You can pick. All right. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Yes.
I can't speak to the motion and the second, but I would read it with interest because I wasn't here.
Oh, okay. Good. We're gonna have to scoot this way a bit. We've got to move a bond. We got to add another chair.
You want me to? You want her to come here?
One of these two need to come up here.
Oh, okay.
Or
We can
Ann.
have down here if that's easier.
Yeah, you do it down here.
We got to. Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff, come on.
He's tall enough. He can.
Hello.
All right, and then you can pick back up. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. We weren't trying to interrupt you
Yeah,
there.
I'm totally confused. Where am I?
You said that you were very
Yeah,
interested.
yeah, I'm interested in the minutes, because it says, on the commissioner, well, Judy's made a point on that. You remember that?
Yes.
About the engineer.
The
for
staff
balcony.
said, and what I'd like to do is, I don't mind these minutes being approved. I'm fine with that because I wasn't there and can't remember it. But I would like to hear the staff's report on that. Not necessarily now. You want to finish this motion, not whatever you want to do.
Oh, well, no, it's discussion, so ask whatever you want of staff.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry, I'm confused. What was the question as far as the review
In the
of?
minutes, the approval of the minutes says Judy states that in the motion, COA 2023-019, she stressed that Mr. Sloan come back with detailed drawing, structural engineer, not a interior design. And the staff, this is what I'm interested in, the staff stated they would review the recording and update the motion if needed. You don't, if this is appropriate to do that now, I'd like to know what you guys found out.
Correct, and we can bring these minutes back for further review if the committee would like. So staff went back through, CC listened to them as well as I did. The motion itself does not require a structural engineer. The discussion, Ms. Kugel said that wanted a structural engineer, recommended that because some previous drawings were done by an interior designer, but the motion itself did not say that a structural engineer was required.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Okay, thank
I
you.
mean, you can get an architect to stamp his drawings, but usually I personally get a structural engineer to do my drawings.
Well, I don't,
It's never had a balcony.
okay, my point is that we voted on a motion and we need to make sure everybody, so.
And I'm happy to bring a
no,
copy of those.
That's fine, if you're not, if the minutes aren't gonna be changed though.
Correct, so the discussion was, the
Yes, I
discussion
remember
notes were
that, yeah.
updated, and so I'm happy to bring that if anybody would like to see a finalized copy of it, where structural engineer was talked about and stressed, but was not part of the actual motion.
That's all I needed to hear, thanks. Sorry.
No, any other discussion? We do have a motion and a second to approve, but before we vote, any other discussion? Okay, and that, all in favor of approving the minutes from October 2nd, 2023? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. So now we go to a rather large consent agenda, and I'm gonna ask Ms. Sal to come up and explain how we do this process.
Absolutely. So Jessica Sal, Community Services Interim Director. So for a consent agenda, the way it's structured is that consent agendas are meant to be voted on as a slate. And so all of the items listed on here. All of the items listed on here, we do it this way during this particular meeting of the year. Normally, these items would all be considered administratively approved items. They're things like redoing a roof with the exact same type of roof, replacing wood siding with the exact same type of wood siding, repainting items that are currently painted. Those type of items, when they come to staff, get administratively approved as long as they are not changing the look, the roof line, anything like that. So normally these cases would not come to HLPC for review. We do this once a year for y'all to look at because all of these requests are tied to a historic restoration grant application. And so what we ask you to do is review them. You can make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated, which means you are approving each one of these projects. There is an agenda information sheet in your packet for each one. Has a little bit of information, but again, a lot of these are just ordinary maintenance items. You also have the option to say, I want to approve the consent agenda except for agenda item 3A or whichever one you'd like to discuss. Then you vote on the consent, and then we come back to the item you would like to discuss if that is how the committee moves.
So at this point, we normally ask if anybody has 3A through 3L, if there are any of those items that you have particular questions about and you would like pulled from the agenda. Okay, in that case, so in that case, we would go forward with the full slate. Is there a motion for consent agenda items 3A through 3L?
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
I second it.
Discussion? Okay, with that, vote please. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
So your next agenda item is regular agenda item 4A. This one is a historic restoration grant reimbursement for 408 East Main Street. This applicant was approved to repaint the exterior of the building. It is a brick building that's been painted for years and years and years. So they wanted to repaint the exterior and then fill and repair masonry at the back of the building because they were missing probably 30 bricks out of it, a lot of cracks in some of the mortar. So applied for that. The estimated cost was $5,250. The applicant provided staff with copies of all the receipts, payments, in that same amount. And so they were funded at 15% of the final project cost not to exceed $787.50. And so staff recommends release of funds in that amount. You can see here the expense report where everything was turned in. And then the after photos, the back of the building, you can kind of see in the gray where the bricks were put back in and then covered back up to match the outside of the building. And then the front, they just repainted to a different color scheme.
Okay, does anybody have any questions of staff about this HRG? Well, in that case, I'd like to move that we approve HRG 2023-008 to approve the release of grant funds in the amount of $787.50. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I don't know.
I did.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor of HRG 2023-008, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
I love giving away money to people. So our next item is agenda item 4B, a COA for 516 East Main Street. The applicant is here to answer any questions you may have, but just to summarize it, they are requesting to paint wooden trim, paint porch flooring and ceiling, replace rotten wood where necessary, and then replace the original wrought iron fence that's been on the property, has been taken down due to damage and kind of falling apart and becoming a safety hazard. And they're requesting to put up a new fence to match the style, color, size of the old fence. They provided several pictures here. Again, the majority of this would fall under ordinary maintenance and normally wouldn't come before you, but since this is part of a historic restoration grant application as well, we brought the whole thing since it does have the wrought iron fence, which again, if they were just replacing a fence that's currently standing, it would still be ordinary maintenance, but since there is no fence currently, we thought we might as well make sure everything was covered and bring this to the committee. This building was built right around 1910. It was designed by Diedrich Rolfs. It's on basically every survey we have, and the brick and wrought iron fence fronting East Main Street is listed in every survey. So it is a character-defining feature that really doesn't fall under the fence recommendations, really is kind of that character-defining feature that, you know, now if you look at some of our design guidelines, maybe putting a fence on the front facade is not normally recommended, but since this was in all the surveys, staff would recommend that goes forward. And our city ordinances that apply are B, C, F, and G. We also have a few pictures. This one, I apologize, we took this off our historic survey website, and the photo quality is not the best, but you can see the wrought iron fence in front. And then here are some pictures the applicant supplied with some of the damage where things were coming undone, rusting away, and then some examples of types of wrought iron fences that would match what was there. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and the applicant is here as well.
All right, so questions of staff? I have one question because you have fence style examples. That's not their fence.
No, it is not.
Okay, so I'm not sure why we have that, but.
And that was just kind of examples of going back, replacing a wrought iron fence with a wrought iron fence. The applicant, and of course they can speak for this as well, did say they were going to have it custom made to match what was there. These were just examples of types of wrought iron fences that you see in this time period.
Okay. Yeah, because I read it as was, so that's why.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions of staff or the owner, since they're here? We don't always have that.
I know.
Well, do I hear a motion?
I so move that we approve this based on ordinance criteria B, C, F, and G.
I second it.
All right. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Get distracted by babies. Our next item is 4C, a certificate of appropriateness for 2703 North Pecan Street. I do want to mention one thing has changed since the applicant turned in this paperwork. It's John and Amanda Denby. Originally, they requested to paint the exterior of the home and construct an addition that was about 15 by 18 feet on the back of it. Since that time, they've talked to a second contractor and got another opinion and are kind of on the fence on how they want to do the addition. So as of right now, they have pulled the addition request away from Hlpc. They're going to come back when they actually have a decision on how they want to build it. So for now, all they are requesting is approval to paint the exterior of the building. So again, this would have fallen under ordinary maintenance, but I talked to the applicant, I believe, on Friday and told him we didn't have time to do a new agenda or anything like that. But so if you do approve this item, it would be not approving as written, but approving the painting of the exterior. And again, this property is actually one of our individually designated properties. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of history of it. The only information on our historic site survey says that in 1938, it was built around 1938, and a previous owner says the property was once part of Thomas J. Russ Pecan Orchard. So unfortunately, that's all the history I have on it for you. We do know it was put under historic overlay probably about 20 years ago at this point, but I couldn't find anything else on it as far as the history of the building. But as of right now, the owner is just requesting to repaint the outside of the house, and it is an all-wood home that is currently painted. And for this one, really a lot of these city criteria ordinances I have listed don't necessarily apply. You know, minimal alterations may fall under there, but the committee can approve or deny as you see fit. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions for staff?
I have a question. It will be repainted same color.
No, they have not told us the color. With Hlpc, as written by our ordinances, we approve what can and cannot be painted, but not the color itself. So I don't know if it will be the same tan or off-white, or if they're going to do a different color.
Other questions? All right, in that case, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve this under ordinance criteria B.
I second the motion.
Discussion? All right, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
So our next item is agenda item 4D. It's a certificate of appropriateness for 522 East Main Street. This is to repair and restack a existing retaining wall in front of the property at 522 East Main, and also install driveway pavers on the back side of the building to create a driveway and essentially a parking area, which right now is currently dirt. This building was built around 1900, and it was originally a one-story dwelling with an outbuilding, and then sometime between 1912 and 1921, a second story was added. All that information comes from our historic site survey, and it is listed as contributing to the Sternhuyen National Register District. Again, the applicant is here to answer any questions if you have any, and city staff finds that criteria B, I, J, and K relate to this request. There's also a few pictures here. This is the front of the building, which was repainted with Hlpc approval and historic restoration grant funds last year. This is the existing retaining wall. It's brick and then concrete pavers that the applicants are wanting to give a little love to and take down and then restack. And then this is the back of the building taken from the house. So this fronts Pillar Street. And the applicant's asking to dig out a little bit, do a base material, and then put pavers so they have a place to park their cars. And the applicant is here to answer any questions.
So, any questions of staff?
I have a question that's not about the issue, but is it true that that house was not, a second story wasn't added on top of it, but that it was raised up?
That I do not know.
And the house was built underneath it? Does anybody know that? Because I heard that and it looks that way, and I just always wondered if that was really true.
The owners?
Do you guys know that?
You
don't think that-
if y'all want to come on up here.
I've always wondered, and since you're here, I thought I
If you could state your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Chris LeBove. I live at this house. So I've heard that too, but in the book, I'd have to go look at it again to make sure. The Diedrich Rolf's book has all the houses in it. They have a picture of the original one-story house,
Oh, okay.
and it looks exactly like the first story does now. So I think they
Okay.
just lifted the roof up and built the second
Okay.
story between.
Okay, that would explain the story. Thank you.
I do have one question for you. Are you intending to leave the tree or go around the tree?
Question. What about the street?
We're gonna leave the tree.
Okay, thank you.
I have a comment that I want to applaud them for doing a permeable pavement. Thank you. The environment thanks you too. I do too.
Any other questions for property owners or staff? Okay, do I hear a motion for this?
I make a motion that we accept COA, sorry, let me get back on my page. Bear with me.
I second that motion, I guess.
COA 2023-029.
I second that motion.
Okay.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor, state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Can I make a comment?
sure.
The first house that was on at 516 East Main, they have agreed to put it on the Christmas Tour of Homes next year. And I took a tour of what they're doing, and it's magnificent on the inside, the changes they made. They're really amazing.
That's wonderful. It's a great way to show off the good work. All right, 4E.
So 4E is a certificate of appropriateness for 819 Jean Alley. The applicant is Sarah Mundy. As many of you know, on Hlpc, this house is actually subject to a demolition by neglect ordinance, had a previous owner, and so the applicant wanted to make sure I knew that y'all knew that she did not let this building fall into disrepair. So this building at 819 Jean Alley is listed as being built in 1920, and it is contributing to the Zion Hill Historic District, even though it's in disrepair. It's a one-story wood frame, double shotgun bungalow, and probably in the last 20 years is when you've seen a lot of this disrepair happening. So there's a lot of items listed on this COA. Many of these sort of fall into ordinary maintenance because it's replacing rotten wood and things like that, but there's also a lot of items that are just plain missing from the building at this point. There are no windows left in it, they've been boarded up. There's some wooden doors, but you can tell they've been kind of piecemealed in here and there. There is rotten siding that's gonna be replaced, but there's also some sections where it's shingles that have been put up to cover holes. So I thought it was best just to bring all of this before HLPC. What they're requesting is replacing rotten siding with shiplap style hardy plank. It would somewhat match the wood shiplap that's on the side, minus the couple areas where it's shingles up there. Replacing 3 rotten doors with solid wood doors, replacing 9 windows with wooden 1/1 windows, which is pretty appropriate for that area. Leveling the foundation, painting the exterior, and then replacing the roof with a metal corrugated roof. And again, like I mentioned, many of these items would fall under ordinary maintenance, but since this is such a large request and is also attached to a historic restoration grant application, we thought it best to bring it before you. City ordinances that apply to this are B, C, D, F, and G. And there's some pictures here of what the building looks like. You can see here are some of the bottom areas where they've put up shingles or whatever wood they had around just to cover up holes. And then the top has more of the wood shiplap siding, but also some of the top has corrugated metal up there right now. So the roof would again be a corrugated metal. They would do the wooden 1/1 windows. She found windows to match the majority of the openings, and then other ones she's having custom made to fit those window openings. And then we'd be replacing 3 wooden doors on the property, and all 3 of the doors you can see right now, none of them match. One of them is a metal door, the white one, and then the other 2 are wood doors. So she's gonna find 3 matching solid wood doors, is what she has said. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions of staff? I'm just glad staff is following up on. And,
I have a whole
demolition by-
Excel sheet on these things.
Yeah, demolition by neglect is working. Good. Well, I'd like to propose, because I've seen this thing around for a while, that we approve COA 2023-034, that it meets criteria B, C, D, F, and G. Discussion.
Jessica, do you know what they're gonna do with the house?
The owner told me she wanted to get it to where someone could actually occupy it. So I don't know if she is going to move in or if she's going to rent it out. But right now, she's like, I just want to get it to where you can safely stay dry and sleep in that house.
Is there a budget of some sort?
She has supplied a budget with her historic restoration grant application. I don't have that for you today to consider. But for her, this was, I believe it was about an $80,000 project to do all of this. And so that was her estimate as of right now. And she has submitted a historic restoration grant application, which will come before y'all as far as the funding in a future meeting.
Well, kudos to her for taking it on.
Yes, exactly.
We've had a lot of phone conversations about this and helping her navigate through this, so I'm very excited to see this on y'all's agenda.
Well, I move that we accept this, item as written.
I think we already have a motion and a
we did
second.
already, we were
Sorry.
discussing it, sorry.
No, that's okay. It's
Perky
all
beat you
right.
to it.
But that's
Okay.
all right, and I think that means it's time to vote,
think
so all in favor
Okay.
of the motion? Say aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, staff, are you gonna tell us about the money or not?
Yes, and so this is not an agenda item, but just, so you know, not for a discussion, I'm happy to discuss it afterwards. Normally, this is the meeting where we bring you the COA cases and the historic restoration grant, funding suggestions at the same time. We are a little bit short-staffed in our finance department with the city, so they haven't done the year-end closeout. And so we can't officially ask you to designate any funds in a budget line item that has nothing right now because it hasn't been rolled over. So we will be bringing back to you the historic restoration grant funding items at either a December or January meeting. And it may be a few different funding scenarios because we had 17 applications this year, which I've worked for the city for 15 years, and it's the most applications I've ever seen in one grant cycle. So we'll be bringing back a few different funding scenarios and options for the committee to discuss, or to give staff further direction, and we go back to the drawing board. So that will be in December or January, but we will give you plenty of notice and try to get that scheduled so as many people can attend as possible.
With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.